Hello, everyone in Chimney World, or listening on LinkedIn or watching or anything. I'm Mark Stoner. I'm your host tonight for another Surefire Live. We, some people may not know what Surefire is, but it's a training platform that I'm a partner in, and we've been around for about 10 years, and we develop training and processes and continuing education for the chimney industry and really for any blue collar business, but that's what Surefire is. And but tonight I want to talk about the pressure of the grind and the thought of quitting or stopping. And it's just wild. But in the last 2 days alone, I've had four or five owners call me and just say they're tired of it. I've had enough. I'm going to give up. I'm going to close the doors. I don't enjoy this anymore. I've just the most crazy things have happened to me. And tonight, I really want to go over that because I've got a lot of insight on that. I know that feeling, and I want to talk about things that I know work and things that some thought processes and some things that I've had to go through and have helped others go through to build a business that you do enjoy, that you do like, that you do have fun with, that is fun. And you may watch other people out there running business and you're like, man, why can they have a great business and I can't? Why do they have a whole different seemingly set of rules on growing businesses than I do? What they must be lucky, or they must or I must just not be good at it, or any of those kind of you know self thoughts, or how you qualify somebody that's successful in business and you're not, or if you don't think you are. But we'll talk about some of those internal games that everybody plays. This isn't a you thing. Um, this isn't a unique thing for you. Almost every problem in business that you're probably going through, uh, everybody ahead of you's gone through it too. They just got through it in different ways. So, the rules are, if you're watching, say hi on one of the platforms. Tell me who's out there. I can see a little group growing. And of course, more people watch this after the show is live than people that really do. But I think if you're going to get the most out of this and our time, you're watching live, and say something, say hi, say I agree, say I disagree, say I've got a question. Hey, on duty. Hey, good to see you, Brian. Hope you're doing well, buddy. We got some exciting things. I'm going to talk a little bit about what you and I are going through with our group, about reasons why you should lean in and grind and do this. But yeah, so this is a two-way conversation. Hit the comments. I'll activate comments on the thing so you can see it. And then I'm going to talk about some programs that we've got. I will say that on our Built to Sell program for Surefire, we've been announcing it for a couple of weeks when we got several people signed up, but we found a problem with our sign-up sheet. And some people were getting through, but some people weren't. They thought they were signing up for it, and we weren't getting them. So we were getting calls like, I guess I didn't qualify. And I'm like, oh, you qualified. And sure enough, we found a glitch. Even though we tested it and tried it when we first started it and it worked, some people weren't getting through. So several came through today. And I'll talk about that a little bit at the end, because I think it puts a nice bow on the end of the conversation tonight about, what's the plan for you? And like I said, several owners have called me in the last couple of days, just ready to hang up. Then other owners are like, hey, I heard this person's ready to hang it up. What's their business worth? What do you think? This, and that. So it's perfect timing. But, I've bought businesses. I've bought businesses from owners that were tired. And, a lot of times that's a fire sale. You're going to get the least amount of money that probably ever for your business if you're just trying to hang it up and have somebody else do it and you're done. You know, my one of my mentors, John Meredith, told me, Mark, you know, by the time in your 50s, you better start planning for an exit. You better start planning for, you know, because it takes several years to get your business ready sometimes. It takes years to go through it. So this isn't like I'm going to sell it in 1 year and be done necessarily. Now you can, but to get the most value, to have the smoothest handoff, this needs to be, you know, ideally a 3 to 5 year process, and maybe even a little longer, you know, if depending on what you're trying to do. So if you're tired of running your business right now, I can just say, I mean, I don't know everybody's individual thing, but if there was ever a time in the business, in our industry, to grind it out, to figure it out, to lean forward, to move into it versus backing away, it is right now. There is so much opportunity that is coming up on the table for you, that I can't explain it enough. And I will say this too, and it will go to private equity, but these companies that are coming in, that are the private equity, these investors are coming in and they're paying, you know, a lot for chimney companies right now. You know why they're doing that? If it was just money to grow a company, they would start them from zero and grow their own companies, right? They'd start them at zero. Why pay all this money for the owners to build what they've built to a couple of $1 million? Well, why is because it's so hard, right? Why is because they don't want to go through what you're going through to get to a few $1 million and build that system. They'd rather take it from a couple million and scale it up from there, because that's easier than getting from 0 to 2 million. That's the whole thing. If it were easy, it would already be done. It would already be people doing. They don't need you. But guess what? They do need you. And they're willing to, if you can get through this fire of 1 to 3 million, which to me was the hardest spot ever. If you can get through that now, they're like, okay, they've got these systems in place. They've got leadership in place. They've got a market in place. They've got they're churning work, and they've got systems in place, and hopefully they've got a good name while they do it. Now, if we can invest in that from that point up, now there's real value in it, and we'll do that. But they don't want to take it from zero to where you are now, most likely either, because it's hard. So I hope that helps you understand that. I was talking to a guy today and I said, you know, I believe that the chimney industry, building a chimney business, is probably the hardest service that I've ever seen people try to grow, including myself. I own several companies, and by far the hardest is the chimney industry, chimney business. But it's also now the most rewarding and has the most potential of all of them. It has the most rainbows and unicorns on the other side of it that I've ever seen. So hang in there. But I'll start with that. Thank you. Anybody else wants to say hi? I'm going to go over a topic and then, you know, ask questions while I go through it if you want, or ask questions at the end. But here's what most of the people that are talking to me about quitting are saying. Here's what they're tired of. They're tired of employees. That's probably the number one problem is, you know, you invested a lot into a person or a group of people, and they have screwed you over. They have quit you. They have ripped you off. They have let you down. You've absolutely leaned in, and they have bailed on you. Sometimes toxically, they've taken other people with them. They have, you know, done absolutely terrible things, dumb things, and you had to fire them or start over. And I will say that happens a lot, especially with newer employees. It can happen with any employees at any point. And this week we had a complete meltdown in one of my companies. A person did something, a young person, always been with us 3 months, but, you know, I don't want to say too much, but posted something on social media that they shouldn't have. had a meltdown at a job site that they shouldn't have, wrecked a vehicle, rear-ended a company, a vehicle person, said disparaging things about other team members, all in one day. This person had been great, but had an absolute epic meltdown of a day and did it publicly for us. Now, you talk to most people and they're like, huh, that she's fired. She's gone, absolutely gone immediately after doing those things. And yes, totally understandable. That would have been reasonable. But, and then also, somebody, well, without going too far, it was a very bad day for her out of actually a lot of good, mostly all good days, 3 months. So she's not, but in this case, we were working for a very famous person, extremely famous. If I said the name, everybody knows who this person is. So we signed NDAs. So we can't say anything about working for these people. You can't show any screens. You can't act like you know them. There's nothing in your world that should say you're working for this super famous person. Well, this person did that, named this person in a post and saying, thinking they're being funny. Well, it wasn't funny at all. Like, we got it all taken back down and backed out of. But I had to sit down with him yesterday and brought her in, and said, look, this is maybe one of the most epic failures of judgment I've ever seen. I've had 1,000 employees. I've never seen an absolute epic meltdown like this. And by all accounts, you should be fired. But I will say, I saw enough in there to give you a chance, to tell you that we care about you, we love you, we want you to win. And we have to make this as a day in line in the sand that we cannot have. This can never happen again on all levels, but we are willing to give you a shot to fix it, because we think you just had a very bad judgment day, young person. And that's how people learn. Like, I've had every one of my top people have had epically bad days. I had a salesman that sold a job that lost us $100,000. I've had epic blowups of people that have been with me a long time. On that day, if you just judge them, they should be fired. But over the length of time they've been with me, they're great performers. They just had bad times or a bad judgment or a bad season in their life. Sometimes, guys go through a divorce and they do dumb stuff. They drink too much, or they might start. All these things happen. They're on edge. And you could make a case to fire them, but I always try to make a case to not fire them, to understand, because, in that meeting I had with her, I told people, this is my favorite position in leadership, is I have all the cards. I have all the cards, and they have absolutely screwed it up. And I have a chance for grace. I have a chance for teaching and training. And you're on the very edge. Of course, there's a write-up. There's a full list of all the things you did wrong. You have to sign it. But I've seen people make giant mistakes, and if you can fix them and work on, this is a feather in your cap. This is how you write policies. This is how we go over it. Like in Ashbusters, when we have an NDA, we go over the NDA with the team that's going out on the job, and we say, hey, we're working for this person. You can't do this. You can't do that. You got to do this. Your phones have to be checked. You can't, all the things that NDA will require for you to, when you're working for famous people, or it could be anybody. We sign NDAs all the time for my powder coat company, where we can't take pictures of certain products hanging on the line. We can't take pictures and show them like how cool this is, because it may be under all kinds of reasons you can't do that. So NDAs are part of, I don't know if it's part of your deal, but it's part of my almost everyday deal. Working in Nashville, we work with famous people all the time. We work on very unique things. So there's a chance for us our other company, to fix that. And it was a great meeting. And I think we came out of it better. But, I remember reading a story about a guy who made $1 million mistake as an employee, and everybody's like, wow, that guy should have totally been fired. And, the CEO said, yeah, he could have. But I can tell you this, he didn't do it on purpose. And the fault he made, he won't do it again. So I've bought that insurance plan that this will never happen again. I think yesterday I bought the insurance plan that our NDA and our explanation of what has to happen on job is not just, yeah, I didn't even read it. I just signed it and didn't pay attention. We reread the policy, went over it again. Do you understand? Because here's what that is. If we've read that and it's policy and you don't do it, that's called employee misconduct. Okay. Now, if you are accused of employee misconduct, I'm not an attorney, but here's what can happen. We did all the right things. You signed it that you wouldn't do it. Then you did it. Now you can be sued personally. If this person decides that you have damaged their tour in any way or their thing, their life, they can come at you personally because we've checked the box. We have insurance for errors and omissions and all this stuff, and you don't. So congratulations, you have exposed yourself to a potential lawsuit. Same thing happens on chimneys and other things where employee signs that they're going to be safe and they're going to do all the things, and they do it anyway. That's employee misconduct. And with OSHA and with all kinds of other things, you have a leg to stand on. I got out of a pretty big fine because I provided the training, I provided the equipment, I provided everything. And this technician still didn't put his harness on the top of a 50-foot lift while putting a liner in. And OSHA walked underneath us and snapped a bunch of pictures. So that's employee misconduct. And I help my employees understand that I've got all these things built up so that you're protected and I'm protected. And when you decide through your judgment that you're going to step outside of it and do something different that we didn't cover for, you could be in deep crap, and you don't want to do that. So that is the tired of people thing. I totally get that. I've got 27 people that have been with me over 5 years. I have 15 people that have been with me over 10, and about 7 people. I've got one person who's with me 20 years, another 18, another 17. So very senior people. When you get people that have been with you that long, they stop making really dumb mistakes. They don't do that. Now, I'm not saying they can't, because they can, but right now, when your company is young and you've got a lot of people that are with you under 5 years, imagine them being like a 5-year-old child. It's trying to, especially when it's little, 2 to 3 years old, technician 1 to 3, it's trying to kill itself at all times. If you don't watch it and you're not there, you're like, what are you doing? Why are you, touching the hot thing, running out in the road, trying to jump off the thing? Like, that's what it's like to have new employees. Now, you don't treat your employees like children. I don't mean that, but in your mind, that's what you have. You have these people that have a little bit of knowledge and a lot of ability, and all of a sudden they are making giant messes in your business, in your company name, costing you money. It's the same as a kid. And then as you pour into them and teach them and show them how to do the things, they start to grow up and make fewer mistakes. Now, they still make mistakes, but then you get teenagers, of course, that think they already know everything and they want to sass you back, and you're not super smart, and they could do it on their own, and those kind of things. As that starts to happen, as they start to have true expert knowledge, and they question your ability and your knowledge, or if they have more worth if they run away from home or do whatever, and that happens. And then you've got senior technicians that actually love the arrangement, where you do your thing. Me as the owner, I set the vision, I set the standards, I do grow the business, I make more opportunity, that I do all those things for them, and they like sitting right behind me and cheering me on to make more opportunity for them, and they get to do their thing, and I cheer them on because they're really good at what they do. Technically, as a company, Ashbusters is absolutely really good. We are technically fantastic. We do really, really good work. Sales wise, we're not as good as we can be because we're technically good. We're getting better at it, helping people like Alan Rush and systems like that. But we're getting better at it. But technically we're very good. We have amazing customer service, absolutely outstanding, you know, technical company, but that doesn't come early on. That is absolutely with a lot of time, a lot of mistakes. One of my favorite sayings in business as you're growing is you're going to put your name on some shitty work and you're going to buy a lot of mistakes as you grow. It's just the deal. And so, but it's so hard when that's happening to you and you don't have a lot of extra money for it to happen in, and you've said this 5 times and this person still does this and still lets you down. So the managing of people is the hardest thing to do. I mean, I wrote a book on it. Shameless plug, Blue Collar Boss. This is on Amazon. You can go look it up. This is my book I wrote recently with years of just how I dealt with the fatigue of the people and the weight of the people, the payroll that comes in every week, the luggage that everybody brings to the table in different ways. Those kind of things is what you as an owner can get very tired of running. I will say, I had a breaking point in my business in 2008, and many of you know the story, but I had 17 people and I was going broke. I was crossing the $1 million mark at that time. And if you know anything about average revenue per employee, 17 people making $1 million is really bad. It's 85,000 roughly per full-time employee, which is less than half of, at the time, probably I need to be 125,000 per full-time employee. And I was just dying. I was growing, but dying. And I had a drug problem inside my company. I was not a good leader. I didn't know how to lead people and hold them accountable. I thought if I held them accountable, they'd quit. I thought if I was nice to them, they would do better, and blah, blah, all the mistakes that I've talked about for years that I was wrong about. But I had one of the biggest problems was my structure. Everybody could talk to me no matter what the problem was. So Mark, and then 17 employees. So my org chart was me and then everybody. Pretty much no management levels, nothing else. And so if the brand new helper, had a problem with his paycheck was wrong, to senior tech had a problem with Mrs. Smith, to the marketing's not working, to the parts are broken, to every single problem in the company came to me. And at the time we had Nextel phones, and if you remember those, they chirped all the time. My phone would chirp just incessantly, and I just couldn't stand that. I also had, when I walked into the business every morning, it was like arrows coming at me. Everybody just was firing, needed to talk to me, a million arrows coming at me. And I hated the business that I built. In fact, there was days I just didn't want to go in because I didn't have the internal fortitude to fight the arrows coming at me and the million things that were weighing me down. And plus I was going broke. I didn't have any money. And, I was just, everything was wrong. And, that's where you got to realize it's my fault. I'm like, well, I built this thing. All the good and the bad, which there's a lot of bad right now. This is me. This is my fault. I can't blame anybody else. It's the things I chose to do or chose not to do. It's the people I hired or chose not to fire. It's all the things that I knew I needed SOPs and processes, but I didn't do them. I just ran. All the things you need to do that you don't do, or that have built up into this absolute firestorm that I had built. And I think I built the crappiest chimney company in the country at that time. In 2008, I was an absolute chaotic, money losing, drug using company. I'm fighting I had 5 good people out of 17. And I just kept believing all the people that were bad were actually going to get good if I could fix it enough, if I could do enough, right? And I let everybody go. I went back to working by myself. I started absolutely over with me and my 14-year-old son. And I'm like, because I tried to sell the business at the time and it had no value. So I know people that in their firestorm want to just get out of the business and sell it. I got news for you. It's not a very good payday. And I thought it was worth a lot more than I was being offered. And I think at the time I was offered like $10,000 for my equipment and stuff. And I'm like, wow, I have really made a bad judgment call, but I've also created this total chaotic nightmare. And at that point, I decided that I'm enough of an expert technically to start this over. And I just need to learn business better. I need to learn leadership a lot. I'm not really good at leadership. And I will really focus on myself. Like, you can't blame employees. It's the safest place for me to control my world is to blame me. And that's the same for you. If you will turn the fault to yourself, now you have a chance to fix it. If you turn the fault to others, you can't fix it there because it's you feel like it's out of your hands. It's all the reasons. It's the employees that are messing up. It's the government. It's the taxes. It's the economy. It's the whatever excuse you want to say is true. But if you will put it on you and you will say, this guy needs to get better, this girl needs to get better, I've got to fix myself, and here's what I'm going to do. Now you have hope and you have control of it. If you give it to somebody else, if you give away the control of your problems, you can say your spouse, you could say your brother, your mother, your dad, all the things. Until it's you, you can't really control it. But as soon as it is you, now you know what to work on. And, funny thing I say all the time is I say, hey, just figure out how to blame me. And then, we'll get through this problem a lot quicker. You guys just figure out how to blame me on the problem. And because I'm fine with that. If you want to figure out how to blame me, good. I'll figure out how my role in it can be fixed. Now, there's times, obviously, it's not everything's not my fault, but I don't mind that level of blame because now I can control, absolutely build it up from there. Brian says 100% took me 8 years to learn this. It is a hard lesson to learn. When you keep hearing that, or when you keep seeing people fail you, and it's them, they did the thing that failed you. They did, and it is true. But somehow in that, you have fostered a problem that you better learn from to fix it. So, look at the person in the mirror. And for me, I knew what it was I was an expert technician and a novice business owner. I did not know business. I did not know leadership for sure. I knew how to fix chimneys. I knew how to talk to customers and write up estimates and go do the brickwork and sweep the chimney and inspect it and fix it and build it. Like, I like that. But the longer I stayed in that, the longer I could not build the business. As long as I was in the seat, I was, business wasn't really getting built. It was just a means to an end. So the employee game is the one you have to learn. Great leaders have people following them. If you don't have people following you, then you're not a great leader. If you have one person following you, then you're a little bit of a leader. If you've got 1,000 people following you, then your leadership skills are, unless you've been placed in that position. But they always say, like, the greatest leaders are a lot of times in churches because it's volunteer, and you have to manage a lot of different personalities, a lot of beliefs, a lot of free stuff. And if you can lead a big church, a lot of times it tells kind of leadership. One of my favorite leadership podcasts is the Craig Groeschel podcast. He's church leader, but he has got a million gold nuggets. I highly recommend listening to that. And for me, listening and reading leadership books helps me navigate, where I am and what I'm doing. So they're tired of managing people. They're tired of recruiting, and they're tired of cash flow problems. They're tired of customers. Let me talk to a person today. They were called out to do a level 2. The technician didn't do a level 2, didn't get under the house, and floor caught on fire. And now they're named in a lawsuit. Well, it was clear that technicians were supposed to do that, but at the same time, there may be reasons they couldn't do it and all those kind of things. But, that's the problems with, some of the exposure we have. And then what do you do with it? When you find out there's a problem in your company, one of the things that people don't take seriously enough is your action right then. You find a safety problem and you warn them. You have an attendance problem and you talk to them. You have a sexual harassment problem and you say, hey, don't do that. You have these problems, yet your reaction to it isn't enough in case there's a problem. So, like one of the things you can't, as an owner, know about a problem and then actually not have a write up or acknowledge it immediately. One of my things I hate when an employee comes to me and says, "Hey, man, I need to tell you something, but don't tell them. Don't tell anybody about this." I'm like, you have just put me in an absolutely impossible position. So now you're unloading this pressure on me, and I've got to hold it. Like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not wired that way. I have to get rid of pressure on me as fast as I can so it doesn't build up in me. If I'm building up with secrets and I know this and can't say that, I can't do it. So I always find out a way. So I'm like, look, if you don't want me to tell, you're going to have to go tell them. So we know that this problem has been talked about, addressed. I figure a way to get it off of me because I can't build stress on me. It has to come off of me, or I couldn't do this. But that leadership thing is you have to, again, one of my favorite sayings is when I was like a $2 million company and it was too much. It was this, between 1 and 2 million is an incredible stress factor. I mean, it's incredible. Getting to 1 million, you think you're going to have a ton of money and you don't. And then 1 million to 2, it can start to get better, but that 3 truck, place that a lot of people are stuck at is very real and very hard to get through. I think I lost my track about what I was trying to get to on, but I would tell myself this. I would say, look, Mark, if you can't handle a $2 million business in the world of business, that's not a big business. I will never have a $3 to $5 million business. And because there's always times, I will say this, and please hear me, there's not a business owner on earth that has not thought about quitting their business at some point. Like every successful business owner, including me, including anybody else successful, has thought about quitting. But almost every one of them is glad they didn't at the end when they've got through it and go to the other side. Now, sometimes they're glad they quit and they sold it and they got out of it and they did something else. But pressure of a business shouldn't be enough to quit. Sometimes you're losing money and you've got to stop things, change things quick. But the business itself isn't the problem. It's the systems that you failed to build, the people you failed to build, your leadership skills that you failed to develop. And you're like, and if it's the same thing is happening over and over, it's you. If you can't get people to stay working for you, it's either you or the process you're putting them into. Because I've met some great owners that cannot keep people. Now, I don't know what it's like to work for you, but there's something wrong. I don't lose people. Like when people come to work for me, I mean, I shouldn't say it. There have been times that I've had, some higher turnover, but people stay with us. They're not going anywhere. There's a stability to it. There's a known factor. There's all the things that make people want to stay. When we hire somebody, we think they're going to stay for a very long time. Sometimes things come up for sure, but in general, the majority of my employees have been with me super long time. Like I said, I got 28 people been with me over 5 years. That makes it pretty easy to run a business. So I would, again, leadership is your key. That is in a self-assessment of how your leadership is. But if nobody's following you, and nobody's staying, you got a leadership problem. You got an internal, you can't see in the mirror what's really there. You imagine one thing, but the reality is it's not that, is my guess. All right, I've talked a lot. I've been at 34 minutes. Feels like I just started. 34 minutes. Any questions or thoughts? Or I'm talking directly to you. And if this is ringing true, it's kind of like when you listen. I don't know your situation. It's kind of like when you're listening to somebody in church, a preacher, and you're like, man, is he talking to me and talking about me? And I'm not, but because the problems are so common. This is a standard problem with what you're going through. I think to know that these are standard problems can help you also understand that it's fixable. And we all had to go through it to get to this other side, right? So I made some other notes. Are you tired of your business or are you done with your business? Those are two different. A lot of business owners are exhausted. I think we've come through a lot and you're tired. You've had enough of the daily grind. And what you're putting yourself through is very tiring. But I think, if you're done, it's like a light bulb and the filament burned out. It doesn't matter how much power, pressure you put behind it, it's not going to light back up. For me, I've always had to re-energize myself when I feel burnout or feel done. I've had to figure out something else that keeps me going to the next thing. It might be somebody ahead of me. It might be somebody growing fast and it's exciting. It might be going to a different conference with a different industry, or it may be just going to our own national events and getting around people and listening to people talk about growth, and maybe getting a mentor or a coach, or talking to another business owner. Talk to me, call me. I get calls all the time, and I like it. A lot of people go, I know you're super busy. I thank you for taking my call. I got this situation, and man, if I got time to talk to you, I love talking to you. So I mean, count me on your team. I love chimney owners that are working to be successful. I also know every single chimney owner has been stressed to the max and ready to quit. I don't care how big they are. The biggest companies have all had owners ready to throw in the towel. They've had enough of this crap. Congratulations. Oh, Blue Collar Gold kept me from quitting. Thank you, Brian. It was my first book. I wrote it like 10 years ago. And it was about my journey from zero, from starting, putting the top hat on and knocking on doors, all the way to building at that time a $5 million company, and the lessons I had learned. And thank you for saying that. That book sold about 50,000 copies. It really took off. And it was really a great groundwork for building the service company. And I think a lot of people did learn a lot from it. And it was more like an exercise for me. I didn't really think anybody would read it. In fact, when I was going through the process, one of my coaches said, don't worry about it. Nobody's going to read it. It's going to be more like a calling card that you're going to give to people. Say, and I was wanting to do more professional speaking at the time. So they said, write a book, then you can, get more gigs, and say, I wrote a book on building service companies. Well, it happened to take off, and it got a lot of notoriety, and it went pretty wild for us. And I'm super happy for that. So thank you for saying that, Brian. But it was just a lesson in what went wrong for me. And so hopefully when you listen to other business owners say that, so I had a meeting with a handyman service this week. And they were so stressed, they did not want any more sales. And one of the brothers was the main sales guy. And the operator said, hey, he needs to stop selling. I said, absolutely not. You need to grow and get out of your comfort zone, man. You got the emergency brake pulled back on this business. And that's not what business is for, man. If you're trying to hold the emergency brake on, this is a problem right here, right? A real business owner is like, okay, how do I scale the operation? How do I build the fish, the salmon net bigger, so when these fish are coming, I'm catching more and more? That's a true entrepreneur. Now, it's not for everybody. I had a meeting with my social media person. And, I started to go down this road of, okay, you need an assistant, and an assistant will need this, and you need a graphic designer, you need this. And she's like, I don't know. I only want one more person. I can't handle any more people. And I'm like, well, if that's what makes you happy, that's what matters. But for me, I'm like, how do I get 1,000 employees? How do I get 5,000? Like, how do I build the biggest thing possible with the energy I have, knowledge I have, opportunity that you have in front of you? I think for me, it's almost like, why would I put a brake on that? If I'm being blessed with the ability to do this and the opportunity, why not try? Why not try everything I can and to grow the company? And again, you when you're at these certain sticking points, the answer is not to retreat. The answer is through. The answer is the opportunity is looking at that problem right in the face and figuring out what's on the other side of it. Sometimes you need people like me or other people that are ahead of you to say, this is what's on the other side of that door. You're in the fog of war and you can't see and you're pissed and all the things are bad. And we can say, look, right here is where you have to get through so you can see the rainbow on the other side, or the opportunity on the other side, or the chance to go to the next step. Again, if you can't handle where you are, you don't get any more. And you might say, fine, Mark, I don't want any more. Are you sure about that? Are you sure you don't want what's on the other side of that? Because it's a wild life if you can really build a big service company that runs, it does a great job, and you don't have to run it. You do. I like running it. I show up. I'm there probably 3 mornings out of the day or out of the week. And I love being with the guys in the mornings, getting the show going, talking, but everybody else is doing the work. I'm not doing the work. I'm just there to talk to everybody and give some color on the day or something, or be fun and get the day going and have a good meeting, or pour into people and listen to their problems and help them in their life. And it's hard work. I work for my people work for my customers. So my job is not at all customer facing at all. It's a very rare day when I talk to a customer. I don't know if I've talked to a customer in a year, but I work for my people. I work for them. And that's my job every day. Come in. How can I give you more opportunity? How can I make your life better? How can I build into you? How can I pour into you? I've got a bunch of guys in my powder coat company that are work release guys. And those are my favorite guys to pour into, because, they're in jail and they come to work for us to get out of jail. So they love working. And in general, they're great guys. They're really good guys, especially when they, when they they're in a box. Basically, they the sheriff brings them, they unload them, they get out, they go work, they can't have a phone, they have their break times, and they just get to work, and they'd rather come work for me than to sit in jail, so they can't wait to work. But that's a great time to pour into people and talk to them. And I'm like, hey man, what are you in for? What happened? And they tell you, and really you can tell they're not trying to cover it up. They're like, most of the time it was something about selling drugs or DUI or something. And I used to have a lot of faith that they could get better. But I only have faith in them. I used to think if I could really pour into them, I could really change some lives. But I can't. I have to talk to them though, like I would anybody else. Talking to them like a man. Talking to them like an employee, not like a prisoner. Not looking down on them. Giving them all the grace I would anybody else. Cheering them up. Telling them to get their. I always ask them how old they are. I'm like, how old are you? And it'll be like 35. I'm like, dude, you're too old to be making these mistakes. What are you doing? Like, I will talk super straight to them, and I'll tell them, here's what you have to do. I can't do it for you. And I will lay it out. I give them books to read. They've all read my book. They've read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I pour into them. And many times these guys get out and they reach back out and say, man, the time with you, I reoffended. I did this, but I got back out and I remember this. And that's the good stuff. And I do that with my employees at Ashbusters too. Got a question: how do your employees react when it was announced that you sold the company? So that's a weird, yet it's really messaging for that. So in that, basically I sold. Ashbusters was a DBA under Stoner Enterprises, my company. So I sold that. Stoner Enterprises owning Ashbusters. Stoner Enterprises owns other businesses, but the companies that they bought, now the Chimney Collective owns Stoner Enterprises, but I own a chunk of Chimney Collective. So I switched from 100% ownership to a percentage ownership of a bigger company. And what I did for my employees was I took a slice of my money that I got, when we initially did that, and I gave them all really nice checks last week. And, I had 26 pretty large checks to these people. Everybody over 5 years qualified. And I showed them, hey, I got a chunk for selling the business. I'm going to share that with you guys. And then we have what's called earnout. So we have some performance that we have to do for a couple of years. And I showed them, when we hit these earnouts, this is what the money looks like that you get to help me grow the company. We all win. And then I gave them some equity, some of my ownership in the future company. I gave them some equity that I have that was mine. So now they have ownership in the new company too. And they're excited when we grow the company or when we grow. So, man, my team is all about it. They're like, okay, they get it. But at first, they thought they were losing their job. They thought it was, Mark is out the door. They thought all the wrong things. And in fact, some people put their resumes on Indeed. I had technicians thinking they needed to start their own thing. So during times of big change, I don't care when you're changing something, the company big, you get fear from employees. I remember when I switched from hourly to commission-based pay, I had guys quit, I had people pissed. When I brought in a COO that was above people, when he instead of like seniority of people who've been with me a long time, I brought in somebody that was high level, but my right-hand man, he was their boss. Had all kinds of people quit, had all kinds of fighting. So anytime there is a big shift in your company, there's fear, and it's your job as a leader to manage that fear. I'm 58 years old, going to be 59 in 2 weeks. I have to make a plan, and they understand. I've been at this game 41 years. I have to make a plan. I can't do it forever. I have to put some things down at some point, and it's not responsible for me not to have a good game plan for the people in case something does happen to me, health-wise, accident-wise. These things happen. Or if I just need to, slow down a little bit and want to do, have some more life. Now, I have a lot of travel, if you notice, and that's on purpose, but they liked it. And when in this group, I think of the chimney companies that have gone on board, there's over $4.5 million of owner money that we would have got as owners were given to non-owner entities in the company. So employees have been arranged to get over $4 million from the sales of these companies. Like the heart of the chimney industry and these owners that are joining these groups is absolutely amazing. Now, not everybody can do it or wants to do it, but the guys who can are, in a way, taking the Tommy Mello approach when he sold A1 garage doors, and that day he made 13 people millionaires. Like we're not dealing with that kind of money, but we are. Sometimes it's life-changing money for these people. And, I've had a lot of people break down and cry and like, are you serious? And I'm like, absolutely. That's good stuff, right? They've been right here with me a long time. And if I'm going to win, they're going to win. That's how commission worked. If we win on a day, you win on your money. If Mark Stoner wins in business, you win with me. If you're on the team, if Mark Stoner's losing in business, you're losing with me. That's how it works. It's super fair. But I couldn't have it to where I won and they didn't. I can't have a great big payday for me and they like, hey, congratulations, you get to keep your job. Like it wasn't that. It had to be, for me, fair, good, amazing. If my deal's amazing, your deal's amazing. If my life sucks, your life's going to suck with me because it's just, we're a team. And it works that way. I hope that answers your question about how did your employees react? At first, scared. Now, super excited. Tomorrow we're filming a thing at my shop, and then Friday we're doing I'm flying my team in from Charleston. My team from Knoxville's driving in, everybody from Nashville, and we're doing a big company talk and just a company meeting. And then we're going to do some fun stuff after that. So it's going to be a pretty fun week for us. And as an owner, I couldn't be more proud to be able to have an exit strategy that helped a lot of people. There's a book out there called Built to Sell, and we did our program kind of based on that Built to Sell that we're doing, where we're helping you get your business ready for the best outcome that you can. But in that book, he talks about if you ever sell your business, don't make it a secret to your employees. Like, get them involved in it. Give them a piece of the pie. Give them a piece of what you're getting, and set up the structure so that they will help the next owner or the next process, if they stay and help build that, they get a bigger bonus if that happens. Like there's a lot of owners that quit. Employees never knew that business sold and they're gone. And when I bought my powder coat business, that's what the owner did. He never told anybody. It was a total secret. We had to have everything as a secret. And for me, I never wanted to be that way. I want to explain to you as much as I can. You don't want to tell them a bunch of things too early and then it not happen. But I handled it that way. And at first it was a little rough and people were just scared. It wasn't rough. Nobody quit, but they were worried. And I had to say the same message probably 15 times over and over and explain it over and over and set everybody down individually and as a group. Open it up for conversations, open it up for an individual. And then it took a long time and they finally understood it, but it's kind of complex and it's a whole new language. What is an earnout and how does it work? Great question. An earnout is, let's just say they're going to buy your company for, I'm just going to say an easy number, $1 million. All these chimney companies are going for significantly more than that, but let's just say it's $1 million. What they're going to do is they're going to say, we'll give you $500,000 today, or when we close the business. And then if you can grow the business, whatever amount that you agreed on with them, they will drop the rest of the money in the earnout. So they have to prove to them that they bought a dynamic company that can grow. They didn't buy a dog. They didn't buy somebody that's on their last leg and going down, and they bought this thing that's getting less and less valuable. It proves that when they buy you, that you still have gas in the tank. You can grow the company. You can grow the company with investment. You can add the people, and you can grow it. And then balls of money, these earnout money. Let's just say if we take $1 million, you got $500,000 on the closing of the business. And then you got $250,000 on year one on the earnout and $250,000 on year two on the earnout. And therefore you get your $1 million valuation. Now, that's what an earnout is. So it's a performance-based thing to show that they bought a company that can still grow. They don't want companies that are done. They don't want companies that are tired and the owner just in our group. We want to invest in dynamic, growing business owners that with investment and with mentorship, we can grow your company. And then it will show that, they don't grow through cutting costs and they grow through better purchasing offers, but not through cutting jobs and cutting people's money. Like I signed back on, I'm the president for 2 more years, but in same salary I was at. So there's nothing changes in that way, but they're like, hey, Mark, if we can invest in you and you can grow this thing, then, they pay full amount for your company. If you don't hit the earnouts, they don't have to pay the full amount for your company because you're not performing. And so let's just say year one, I have a great year. So I get my part of my earnout and I've got another year and I don't hit it. They don't have to pay me that last piece because I didn't do my part. They got to be there for the money if I do my part. And, if I do that, then, there's multiple paydays. And then I took a part of my pay and rolled it into the equity of the new company. So I have ownership, pretty decent ownership of the new company. And I'm also the chairman of the board to help grow that company and help find other chimney companies that want to join us to grow it. And that's very exciting. That really trips my trigger because I want good things for the chimney industry and I want good things for friends of mine that do chimneys. And so, if I can help you in any way, I don't care if private equity, if you're going to sell to or you're going to give it to your kids. A lot of people say, hey, I'm building this up. I'm not interested. I want to give it to my kids. That's great. Or, but have a plan and then be ready for the plan to shift because your kids may not want it. Things may happen. You may get sick faster than you think. You may not be able to do it. You may have pressure. You may have, all kinds of things. So prep the business right now. And you can say, but I will say this. I think in the next 5 to 8 years in this chimney industry, there's an extremely amazing window to build these companies. I would stay super diligent about it, get all the information you can, grow a truck a year for 5 years, grow 2 trucks a year for 5 years, make your truck 5 to 10 trucks more in the next 5 years. There's a significant value that you're building in your chimney company that other people will find value in if that sounds good to you. If it doesn't, and keep doing your thing. I mean, nobody's telling you you need to do this. I'm just saying the opportunity is there and it's never been there before. And I don't think it's necessarily, and this is my opinion, could be wrong, I don't think it's going to stay here forever because they're going to go through and they're going to find something else that's exciting. Chimneys are super exciting right now, and we couldn't be at a better time. I don't know how much clearer I can be about that. That should excite you because you're in a business that has a lot of options, which it never had a year ago, but they're out there. But hopefully that answered your question about what an earnout is. It's so you get the full valuation of your company. Now, some companies don't go through an earnout. They might come to you, and I put this offer on the table. I said, well, what if I just sell 100% and I'm done? Like, you can do that. Clearly, Ashbusters has a lot of enterprise value, but it's not worth as much as if you'll stay on with us and grow the company. We'll have a lot better offer for you at that point. And so that's where an earnout comes, and they give you more money basically than they would. If you want to sell and be done, that's a number. If you want to sell and grow it, that's a bigger number. And I've said, oh, I can grow this thing, no problem. I just have to focus, more on it. And, I know exactly how to grow this company. So let's go. So hopefully that answers you on what an earnout is. But I will say, we are going through, we have a program. Let me just go over it real quick. It's called Built to Sell. And let me see if I've got where is my banner? Where's my banner? It's called Built to Sell. And the website is Surefire B2S. Here it is. Surefire that's Sweet Boy Cancer. That's not it. Surefire B2S right here. This is our program that we built. There's some of the private equity guys are going to talk to everybody, explain a lot of these things, see why they like the chimney industry and what's interesting. They're going to give you an evaluation of your company. No, there's no pressure. There's no issues. They're just going to say, this is what your business is probably worth. And you could say, oh, that's great. Or, I need to make more. And then our 10-month program is going to, one, get you mentally ready to grow, because that's a big part of what I'm talking about tonight is how you think about it. So our starting thing is with a business growth coach, Steve. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's worked with us a lot, and he gets you mentally ready and put some armor around you to go through this thing. And then we have the private equity investors that can talk to you. We've got people that have bought businesses, and mostly several people that have sold businesses. And we got several people that sold, like one of them sold a $100 million company. We've got several people that are in this process to help you know what we're talking about. And then we're going to do a final evaluation in 10 months to see if you've moved the needle the right way or what problems you had, so that inside and out what we're talking about and what your business is worth, and then what you need to do to get the valuation. Or you may say, hey, that's because when I went into this program, or when they first started talking to me, I had a number in mind that I'm like, if I get this number, I could be done. You need to have that number yourself. You need to have that number that if you're thinking about doing something else or selling the business or pivoting, depending on your age or whatever you want to do in life, have that number. Like, if this number comes around, I'll do it. And if that number comes around in this program and it's not there, you're like, we call it chopping wood. Here's the wood I need to chop to get there. And I got some friends of mine that the offer wasn't quite as good as they want. It was good, but it wasn't quite as good. And they got to chop wood. We got to chop wood for a year and a half and get there. And, that's kind of the game that we're playing. How to grow these companies, how to service more customers, how to have an exit strategy that has real value and can set you up for an amazing life. That's what this is about. So, well, guys, I've been at it for a minute. We're right on an hour now. Had a crowd built and stayed with me, so that means a lot to me. That hopefully I said some things that were educational and helpful. If you want more information on the B2, go to this website right here, surefireb2s.com. It lays out what we're going to do, who's going to be speaking, what we're going to be talking about, There is, you come to Nashville at first, we're having a big kickoff party at my shop. We're gonna have, it's always helpful to go to people's shop and see what they do. You'll learn a lot just by coming to Nashville, being around people of the same mindset, talking the same language. And then we're going to do a lot of, online stuff. And then we're going to have a final party in St. Thomas. Yep, Surefire B2S. Do I have it right? Surefire B2S. Surefire. Yeah, that's Maddie. She's our assistant. She's our marketing director now. She got a new title, Title Town. And so she's one of the people that helps navigate this and helps us put this on. So, and then we're gonna end up with a party in the Caribbean. We're thinking maybe St. Thomas, but we're not quite sure yet. We always like to have some kind of celebration at the end. Us as business owners, a lot of times we don't celebrate enough. We don't cheer each other on enough. We're kind of in our own little island, own little, silos, as they say. And man, I like being around people with energy. I mean, I think it's refreshing to be around people that are in the similar journey, similar problems, similar struggles, and see people win. Like, to me, that just gives me all kinds of energy. So that's what we're going to do. We'd love you to be joined. It doesn't matter where you are in business. You could be $500,000 company or less. You could be a $5 million company or more. This is an educational piece. This is so you really know what everybody's talking about. You know what you have, and there's no embarrassment. Like, doesn't matter how big you are. It took me 17 years to get past $1 million in business. 17 years. Like, that's way too long. But if I would have known some of these things early on, I could have gone so much faster. And you have a lot of access to more information now and it shouldn't take that long. And, Anthony Valerio is a fantastic example of, like, I think he's 7 years to $14 million, I think is a rough number that he got to, like, fastest growing chimney company I've ever seen, maybe that there's ever been. He's on our team. You can do it. And he's not in an amazing market by any means. He's just an amazing leader and implementer. And it's not luck. It's not fortune. It's this guy just grinds. And I grind. I just grind every day. And I think if you grind in the right way, it starts to really pay off. There's another book called Atomic Habits that you should look at. James Clear is the author, Atomic Habits. This shows the snowballing effect of little bitty habit changes that multiply over years and how that really affects you. And I would say, if anybody is around me for a day, they usually understand there's a different level of work, a different level of intentionality to my day and when I see other people not being that intentional with their day, it's hard for me to watch. And why people aren't necessarily successful, because they do the wrong things too much. They don't do the right things enough. So, all right, guys, super good. Hopefully this was a good talk. I enjoyed it. It had a good, it was really relevant into what's happening today. In the middle of summer in the chimney business is one of the tougher times. And then, of course, the middle of fall, when all the pressure's on you, there's two different pressures. One, not enough work and people are wanting to do different things with your employees. And then the other side is so much work you can't handle it and the issues that comes. So that's just what business is, man. It's solving problems every day. It's not that you don't get problems. You just get different problems as you build this thing. So, all right, guys, thank you for everything. We'll talk to you soon. See you next week.